coming to you from inside one of David Blaine's balloons. I'm RJ Balde, and this is the TRICHOMES Hashitout podcast. On this show, we feature conversations about trending cannabis topics. We also bring in industry insiders and influencers to discuss their point of view. In this episode, I'll be talking to Dr. Swathi Varanasi about her work in pharmacy, integrative medicine, cannabis, and bilingual CBD and botanical medical consulting. We'll also talk about navigating the professional world with unconventional experience and much more. Without further ado, it's time to hash it out. Today, I am joined by Dr. Swathi Varanasi, an integrative health pharmacist, medical cannabis consultant, natural medicines educator, and content contributor. Welcome to the show, Dr. Swathi. I'm stoked to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Now, where are you joining us virtually from?
From Los Angeles.
LA. Okay. Well, I mean, how's your whole year been? It's a loaded question. I ask everyone so far that's been on here, how has it been for you so far this year?
So I think to answer that question, I just focus on the silver lining. I know there are so many negative things that have gone on this year between, people getting sick, people not being appreciated in society, everything in between. But I have felt so lucky that I work mainly remotely. And so I've had the chance to really continue and push the needle on so many projects that I'm excited about. Mm-hmm. So my silver lining is that 2020 has been awesome.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear. that you're doing well. You're safe, family safe, friends are safe?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone is safe. Everyone's all over the country, but doing well.
That's good. That's good to hear. Now, we were talking a little bit before we started recording here, and I'm particularly stoked to speak to you because I feel like we have a similarity in a sense where we both come from very unconventional experiences and paths that have led us to this moment here where we're both virtually meeting and having this conversation. So I'm really looking forward to asking you about your experience and where you came from and how you got to where you are today. Now, I understand that you're a graduate of both Cornell University in plant-based nutrition and the Medical School of South Carolina as a doctor of pharmacy. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Now, I understand that you've always been passionate about integrative health, but never thought that a Western medicine trained pharmacist could be a part of it. So for those listening who may not be familiar, can you share more about what integrative medicine is exactly and how you did become a part of it?
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, I'd always been interested, but I never knew that was something that I could do as a pharmacist. And that was really because I didn't know anyone personally. I didn't know anyone like through my network. I didn't have any family friends or anything that were in it. But then I started looking around and trying to figure out like, how can I put myself where I feel like I belong in pharmacy. And so I had an opportunity to do one of my clinical rotations during my final year out in LA. And me and the preceptor, my mentor during that rotation, really hit it off and found that we have this idea, this synergy that comes with natural medicines education and really just valuing the entire patient as a whole and not just focusing on one specific modality, whether that modality is prescription medication, whether it is homeopathy, whether it's therapeutic aromatherapy. There's so many different facets. So the way that I would describe integrative medicine or integrative health pharmacy overall is really looking at how we can combine different modalities or methodologies of medicine and healing and how we can combine them specifically for each patient. So it really is just such a personalized, individualized way to look at medicine. And also the thing that I also really love about it is that it really looks at the patient and the practitioner as a team. And so, of course, you were asking the patient what they want, what they need, what their treatment goals are. But really taking those into account and laying out all the possibilities within all the different modalities that could work for the patient, and then figuring out with them what the best option is.
Interesting. Okay, so that's such a great concept, because I mean, I'm sort of a pedestrian when it comes to this, but it does seem like for the most part, medicine isn't really super individualized. Am I right in believing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for a lot of the chronic disease state management, there are national guidelines that say you do this first line. Oh, if that doesn't work, then you go to second line. Oh, if that doesn't work, you do third line.
Right.
And there are very few like exceptions or very few ways that people stray from that empiric theory. So I think that's very, very different from the way that integrative medicine functions.
Gotcha. So is the idea of integrative medicine sort of combining the best of, say, natural medicines and then, say, pharmaceutical medicines?
Yeah, the best for that specific patient.
Okay, I see. Gotcha. That's so interesting. Now, I understand that upon your graduation from pharmacy school, you and Dr. Pam Tarlow were they sort of a mentor for you?
Yeah, so that was the mentor I was referring to when I had the opportunity of the rotation. And then, after pharmacy school, we decided to start the first ever postgraduate training program for pharmacists, specifically in integrative health and medical cannabis, and really trying to figure out where the pharmacist role is and where the pharmacist could be so beneficial in both of those areas, really looking at preventative medicine, looking at all these modalities in that way, and trying to figure out how that blends with everything that I've learned for the last however many years in my Western curriculum.
Right. Because, being I feel like there might be sort of a misconception sometimes that a pharmacist definitely does more than just fulfilling prescriptions, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, what are your thoughts? Oh, also, when was that program that you started with Dr. Tarlow? When did you start that?
So that was started in 2019, and it's a year-long program. And then after that, it's continued. We're hoping that in the future it will continue to grow, and we'll be able to take on more and more healthcare practitioners, even apart from pharmacists, because what we heard throughout the year is that other practitioners, like other than just pharmacists, we're also interested in this type of training program. So hopefully we'll be able to extend that and make it more interprofessional too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it was, like you said, the first of its kind in this country, right?
Yep, and still is at the moment.
Still is. Okay, right on. Forging a new trail. That's for sure. Now, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts about those who are advocating for cannabis as a treatment for COVID-19?
See, that's very complicated because as a Western practitioner and everything, I always want to look at things from an evidence-based perspective. So really seeing what has been published, really chatting with my colleagues and figuring out what we think the best is. But that being said, I mean, if we're looking simply at the physiology of the endocannabinoid system and the way that it functions, so much of its, functionality has to do with anti-inflammatory processes. And so with that, if we're looking at it like that, simply from a theoretical standpoint, I think that influencing or modulating the endocannabinoid system in this time when there's lower immunity or concern for lower immunity and everything that could potentially be beneficial. At this point, I would say that I don't think it would be detrimental. So it's always looking at the risk versus the benefit. And I think in this case, the benefit would outweigh the risk. So if that's something a patient is super passionate about adding to their regimen, then that I think is a conversation I would continue.
Okay. I see what you mean. So it wouldn't hurt to try it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. At this point, that would be my take on it.
Okay. Got you. But you wouldn't you wouldn't be able right now to conclusively say, based on the evidence, that it does help. But there is...
Not at the moment, but I do think that there's incredible research going on right now.
Yeah.
So hopefully, like, if we were to chat in like 6 months to a year, then I could have like a more concrete answer.
For sure. Yeah, we'll put a pin 6 months from now, and we'll do a COVID X cannabis check-in, like recheck-in or whatever.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's good to hear that you are approaching it, on an evidence-based platform. We live in the age of the internet where misinformation is rampant, and we also live in a capitalistic society where people are unfortunately trying to capitalize on the coronavirus pandemic. And so it's great to get some level-headed, non-biased, fact-based opinions every now and again, because the internet can be a scary place and a lot of people can be steered wrong on the internet.
Yeah, definitely. That's like one of my main goals, is to try to debunk and like dispel myths or things that people are reading online that are just kind of being blogged about, but there are no references or nowhere you can look to find more information based on what was written.
Right. Are there any in particular that you can think of that you've seen recently that have sort of piqued your interest?
None in particular that I could name. I just feel like a lot of the time when, a patient comes in, or I hear from a family friend that like, oh, I heard XYZ about CBD. What do you think? And then I asked for their source and they said they Googled it and that kind of a thing.
Yeah. I found it on like the 6th page.
I feel like you can
Google.
find any answer you want on Google if you just put in the right keywords.
Yeah, no doubt. Google is just there to like stroke your ego pretty much. You just type in anything and it'll validate it for you. That's for sure. I feel like that's also the tactic of like WebMD. It's like, you definitely have something. We'll let you know. We'll definitely.
I think WebMD tries to be as like all-encompassing as humanly possible. So I think they just put down all the possibilities, like any and all possibility. So it ends up looking like a super extensive and maybe even like scary list sometimes.
Yeah, totally. What I mean, like, do you think that's just them covering their asses, like, or?
I think that could be part of it, but also like to an extent, if someone has stomach pain, I mean, it could be like stomach cancer or something super intense, but like, I mean, the chance of it being it is very low. But if they're just looking to be as comprehensive as possible, then I get why they would put it on there. I just maybe wish they were a little more explicit that said like, this is super rare, but we're including it for the sense of just including everything that we think is possible. That
would be nice, wouldn't it? That would definitely, I think, ease the minds of a lot of a lot of hypochondriacs out there. That's for sure. Now, I want to talk more about your experience because, like I said, it's an eclectic, is what I mean. It's an eclectic resume. Let's just say that. Right now, you've got a lot going on as it is. You were the co-founder of Farm Supplement. You're the host of the new Contemporary Cannabis YouTube series. You're the director of pharmacy at Jade Health based in Seattle, Washington, pharmacist educator at Medical Cannabis Mentor, chief scientific officer at Element Apothec, and incoming chief pharmacy officer at Cal Ethos in Southern California. Okay. So can you just tell me, like, let's just break this down a little bit and go through each one. And can you just tell me a little bit about each one and the work that you do?
Sure. Which one should we start with?
So let's start with Farm Supplement. You were the co-founder of that one.
Yeah, so Farm Supplement, so that's going back to that same mentor, Dr. Pam Tarlow. So after the residency was over and after I had that specialized training, even during the training, we knew that we wanted to continue to work together and we wanted to continue to find a way to educate healthcare practitioners and students, because throughout my training, I had the opportunity to guest lecture and be adjunct faculty at quite a few colleges of pharmacy and colleges of traditional Chinese medicine. And I still teach at them person now, which is amazing. I absolutely love it. But so through that, we knew that that was something that we both really, really enjoyed and really wanted to continue. And that was a way that we wanted to give back to the scientific community. And so we have banded together, and we're putting together materials right now and putting together a training program that is not live yet. I'll let you know when it is.
Gotcha.
That is for healthcare practitioners and students about all the different integrative health modalities, including cannabis.
Wow. And that was started, did you start that in 2019 also?
Yeah, that was started technically in 2019.
Nice. Right on. And are you still doing work with Farm Supplement, or have you sort of moved on since co-founding it?
So we're still working on it. I think COVID put a little bit of a delay in certain things,
Sure.
but no, we are still moving forward with it and continuing to have conversations and build out the curriculum.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that's dope. Let's move on now to, you are the host of Contemporary Cannabis on YouTube. You're 3 episodes in now, if I have that correct.
Yeah, 3 episodes have gone live so far. We have recorded a few more. And that's also just getting back to how much misinformation there really is. And I want there to be a place that people can find that has evidence-based information about all the different topics. And actually a lot of the topics that we are talking about in the upcoming episodes. So of course, in the beginning, we're going to give an overview of the endocannabinoid system, an overview of CBD, THC, all those, most popular things. And then after that, we're going to go through in different episodes and kind of break down certain aspects of each one of them, research that's been done with like sleep and THC, for example, or like exercise and how exercise can modulate the endocannabinoid system. We'll do a whole episode on that. So just like looking at different factors that go into talking about cannabis and talking about cannabis from a very objective standpoint.
That's awesome. And how many episodes have you recorded now? Did you say?
So 3 are live. We've recorded 7, and
nice.
We'll be recording more starting next week.
Nice. Oh, also director of pharmacy at Jade Health, but that's based in Seattle, right?
So actually it's just like at the moment it's online. So we actually have people working in all different parts of the world. Cool. The founders and a lot of the top admin people are actually in Panama right now.
Oh, like they live in Panama?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
But they're originally from Seattle though, or they spend some of their year in Seattle.
That's awesome. Now, when did you start working with Jade Health?
Also, I think it was late 2019, early 2020.
Okay.
And their platform is so incredible. So it's an educational platform that's mainly geared for the patient. And it's a platform that would be recommended through a practitioner for a patient. And it will have all types of information, including like a wellness library that talks about all different conditions that cannabis and natural medicines, nutrition, all those different modalities, how they can be used together, used in tandem for a specific patient. So really trying to educate the patient on all that information, and then being able to like give some recommendations as well. And then through the platform, patients will have access to specialists if they want to chat with like an endocrinology specialist who sees a lot of cannabis patients or something, and they want to talk about their diabetes treatment, for example, something like that. So it's a really all-inclusive type of platform.
Gotcha. And then that sort of plays into your overall sort of experience with integrative health, because that does sort of personalize the healthcare experience, right, for each patient.
And also like using genomics with that too. So being able to input your like 23andMe results or getting a genetic test, and then seeing how, if there is any research out there, evaluating the research. Like one of the founders is writing an algorithm to figure out, okay, so if they have this mutation, potentially maybe this constituent like CBN or CBG maybe isn't a good fit for this patient, like that kind of a thing. So really trying to be like as specific as possible with it.
That's so cool. I was literally just looking over my 23andMe results again recently because um, they sort of like keep you updated with like new information that they'll find all the time. And I was literally just looking over. I had found out like where my potential ancestors like migrated from when they got to like the specific point in the Philippines where like my ancestors are from. Yeah, that's super cool. So that's awesome that you just brought that up. Have you ever done a ancestry test?
I haven't, but it's been on my list. It's actually on like my 2020 list. It's something I've been wanting to do.
They're so cool. I suggest 23andMe because not only does it do your ancestry, but it also does, like you said, your it like breaks down your DNA and gives you like different, like it told me like I was something percent more likely to be afraid of heights, which I totally am. And I was like more likely to have like sweaty hands, which I admittedly do. And so I was like, wow, 23andMe is really reading me right now. Like they know more about me than I do.
I would love to know like how they came to that conclusion, like the inner workings of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that information is on there, but I am just not, I don't know how to read certain things. It has a lot of cool colors and stuff, and I'm like, I'll look at the graphs and things like that, and I'll read. But yeah, when it breaks down like the individual sort of like uses a lot of scientific terms, I'll send you a screenshot and maybe you could like translate it into layperson.
If I have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll let you know for sure. Now, was Jade Health when you started there? Were they already sort of a virtually based company? Was a lot of the work that you were doing already online based? Okay, cool.
And yeah, it's very much like been there from the beginning as like an online platform that could be accessed that could be accessed to patients like from anywhere. And so I think that was also part of the goal too, and then like to try to curate a team. Sometimes it's a little limiting to be like, oh, I can only get a team from this like zip code or, like this area. So I think that also works in their favor too.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Pharmacist educator at Medical Cannabis Mentor. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so Medical Cannabis Mentor is an online educational platform, and they have courses right now for healthcare professionals on the endocannabinoid system and cannabis therapeutics for various healthcare professionals, as well as they have a course called Counterintelligence, and I love the name, and that's for bud tenders. So they have those options.
I
think it's really funny. And so I was contacted through that company to help them write a course that was specifically for pharmacists. So right now it will be the first online course specifically for pharmacists on cannabis therapeutics and an intro to the endocannabinoid system, its first like standalone course like that. And so the big news is that it's going to be launched this month. And so we recorded a promo video and we're like getting all like geared up for that. So very exciting.
That's awesome. Where can our listeners find that program?
So it's on medicalcannabismentor.com. I can provide the link for you that you can put in the caption.
Yes. We'll drop the link in the description for sure. Who is that available to? Is that available to anyone in the country?
Yeah, it's available to everyone.
That's dope.
And they also have people who have taken it abroad. They actually have a specific course for practitioners in Canada as well. So they have connections there. So
that is so cool. That is really awesome. I love speaking to people on this show that advocate for education and giving that, the right information to those who seek it, instead of it's I guess sort of pessimistic to say, but there are people out there that take advantage of people who are looking for information and are looking for specifically in the health space. You know what I mean? There's so much snake oil in the health space. And so that's really great work that you're doing there.
And I think also if patients have access to that kind of information, then that really empowers them too.
Yes.
That they feel like they have so much control over their treatment and everything. And I think that is highly underrated when we're talking about education too.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It helps them maintain a sense that they're in control of their own health instead of being, subject to whatever the industry, is giving them or prescribing them.
Yeah. And I think that also goes along with like patient outcomes too, because I mean, if they feel like they were a part of the discussion or a part of the decision, then the chance of them actually taking the medication or, taking whatever supplement or whatever was in the discussion, that they would be more open to taking it. And so their outcomes would actually improve. So I think that that's a huge part too.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Chief Scientific Officer at Element Apothic. Now, this one is based in SoCal, right? Southern California?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now, what do you do as the CSO there?
So with that company, again, like I was very attracted to them because yes, they are a CBD botanical brand. They're very clean, very sustainable. And that was a huge draw for me, that they really did care about being sustainable, being socially conscious, being a B Corp, all of that amazing stuff.
Sure.
But then on top of that, they value education as much as I do as a practitioner. And even though there aren't any other practitioners, in the C-suite, so to say, they really see the value of the patient understanding what they're taking and even helping the patient figure out what is the best for them. So, with that, I'm working on a lot of multimedia content with them. So I'm actually co-hosting that television show with the CEO, Davina. So that's kind of linked in that way.
Nice.
And then apart from that, writing blogs, and then answering a lot of like customer service questions. If any patient has, or any customer has a question regarding, something a bit more scientific or something specific with like their diagnoses, and if they can take the CBN product or something like that, then I would be able to field that question rather than the customer service team just saying, talk to your doctor, because as we know, most doctors do not know about cannabis yet.
Right.
I'm going to say yet, they will, but so I think that's also highly beneficial for the patient too. So just playing an active role in that and really trying to move the company forward. It's been a very exciting few months, and I'm thinking September is going to be a really good month for them too.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So you've only been with them for a few months now.
Yeah, it's been like an ongoing process. I met them a bit ago, but yeah, I officially started in that role in more of a full capacity recently.
That's so great that you are serving as, you have so many like small hats under this big hat of being chief scientific officer, because you're also, like you said, running customer service pretty much. But that's awesome that it's an avenue for patients or individuals who just want to learn more to actually, instead of, like you said, connecting with a customer service representative who might just, forward them to a medical professional, they can just speak to you directly. A medical
so
professional.
That'll be an option. Yeah. And then having like a message board on their website, like a way that someone could just write in a message.
Sure.
Just straight to me also. So that'll be an option. So yeah, just trying to be there for the patient, because like Element Apothic, we really understand the amount of misinformation out there.
Right.
Just trying to do anything we can to be a part of dispelling that.
Definitely. And so far, what have been among the most common either questions that you've been asked from patients or customers, or common misconceptions that you have come across?
I think one of the biggest ones, and I guess because like we're both in this space, we don't think about how certain things come off in different ways. So people, like I've gotten quite a bit, like, is cannabis the same thing as CBD?
Oh,
or they use them interchangeably? Like, oh, I'm using this cannabis product. Like, what kind of cannabis product is it? Like they're using them very interchangeably. And then like that very famous question about like, oh, can CBD make me high? That's still very popular. Still a lot of people don't understand that, which I mean, like if there is so much misinformation, of course, so, yeah, I would say those are really high. And then also, can I take CBD with insert drug, or can I take CBD if I'm like going to have surgery? Like those like type of big questions.
Gotcha. Now, this one at Cal Ethos, you're the incoming chief pharmacy officer. So have you not started yet?
Not officially.
Okay. Okay. Now, do you know when that's going to be?
It is imminent.
It is imminent.
in the next few weeks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Right on. Are you stoked about it?
I'm really stoked about it.
That's
cool. It's going to be an incredible project.
Nice. Do you already know like sort of what you're going to be involved in once you start? Okay.
Yeah. So through Cal Ethos, the goal is to set up various showcase centers around Southern California. The first one will be in OC. Nice. And these showcase centers will have and showcase, so to speak, a lot of different brands within the cannabis space.
Nice.
And so those will all be showcased. And then the part that I will be responsible for is kind of like an integrative health center that is a portion of the showcase. And so within that integrative health center, we're going to have other products that could potentially synergize with the cannabis that you're purchasing in the showcase, or potentially just be a great other option for that specific ailment. So we'll have things like adaptogens, therapeutic aromatherapy, other Western herbs. And so, yeah, I think that like it'll be a really, really cool opportunity to like include a lot of my integrative knowledge and like the way that I think of and see medicine through that role. So it is based in that cannabis showcase, but then I do get to do a lot with integrative health and really bringing those together. And a big thing also is so that patients having the opportunity to do consults, which is something I'm really passionate about, is that, if a patient does have a question, I want there to be healthcare practitioners in that area of the showcase in particular, where they can go to that healthcare practitioner. Ideally, it would be like a pharmacist or a nurse or a PA, like someone who has a vested interest in integrative health and or cannabis therapy, as well as someone who's taken the time to really learn about it or is willing to take the time to train and learn more about it to help patients. So I think that will be a really defining factor, that there'll be healthcare practitioners on staff that will be there to answer your questions.
Yeah, that is super cool. So apart from just you, there are other healthcare professionals that are also a part of the team?
There will be.
There will be. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
there will be.
You're the first. You're the first.
I'm the first.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Do you know when that showcase is going to be in Orange County?
It'll be sometime early next year is the plan. Once we get started, then we'll just go full throttle with starting to put everything together, and we'll have the space by then, but just trying to figure out how to lay everything out and what to stock in inventory and all that good stuff.
Cool. Well, definitely keep me updated. I'm local to Orange County, so I would definitely be interested in checking that out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No doubt. Cool. Now, a few days ago, you posted on your Instagram, you reposted from Element Apothic on your Instagram, celebrating #Women's Equality Day as a woman founded wellness and skincare CBD brand. So I just want to ask you about this too. It's a hard shift from your experience and what we were just talking about, but gender representation or the lack thereof in the cannabis space has long been a topic of discussion. So just based off of your opinion, what do you think the state of it is today? Is it better? Is it worse? Is it the same? What do you think?
I think it's improving. I think it's improving. I think I definitely want to use a gerund, the ing, it's definitely still in progress. It's improving, definitely. I think day by day there are more women getting interested, more women taking the initiative to be a part of the industry. So I think slowly but surely it is going to be more of an even split between men, women, all across the gender spectrum. So I really do think that it will change, and it will continue to change and evolve.
I hope so. Yeah, I definitely hope so. Representation is, of course, one of the most important things. You need to make sure you have those voices in the room in order to understand the needs and the wants of every person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also being a minority too, I think is really important. The founder is Hawaiian, I'm Indian, so that's like another, thing that we're really excited about too, is being able to give voices to women of color, but I mean also just anyone who identifies as a minority.
No doubt. Now, we just sort of did a crash course on what you're doing right now. Like I said, it's a lot. You've got a lot going on, which is super rad. What do you do to stay balanced and focused in each aspect of your work? Because as someone who also has their hands in a lot of projects, usually that is something that I can use as much advice on as humanly possible.
Yeah, I'm really big on balance. So I have to sleep like 8 hours a day to be a human being, or like around 8 hours, maybe like 7. But I definitely need to have like really good rejuvenating sleep. And then I have a morning routine that I've implemented that I'm really excited about, with like stretching and just like easing into the day rather than, having an alarm. I've completely axed the alarm from my routine. So getting up after feeling like, okay, I had a great night of rest, or it's time to get up kind of a thing. So that's been really nice. And I think also just making sure, like, I'm a big planner. And so like I have this massive planner, and I just plan out everything like for each day. Like, what are the like 1 or 2 tasks that I have to do? Like, they're absolutely time sensitive, or like they're just things that like are the absolute top of the list in terms of priority. So I have those things that like have to get done. And I always like to look and plan for the entire week on like Saturday or Sunday whenever I have time over the weekend. So I like to plan for the whole week. And of course, things like change during the week, and so you change accordingly. But I think just having an idea of what you want to accomplish throughout the week, starting from the weekend before, and then also like the night before you go to bed, just looking at the list, like even just like glancing at it, being like, okay, so I have to do this and this tomorrow. And then I try to actually really like plan out my day. So in the morning, like how much time like I'm going to allot for my morning routine and making my matcha or whatever it is. And then going through and deciding like really how much time I'm going to devote to each task, and then making sure I make time for like making food or like making dinner, and then working out, and just making sure that I have time for everything.
Yeah. Well, you started off and your advice was sleeping, and I was like, oh, damn. I love sleeping. I just don't see her enough. You know what I mean? And it's so interesting too that you've nixed the alarm clock. Like I can't even imagine, doctor. Like I would sleep until 1 p.m. every day, I feel like.
I think like because I've planned like the day out, or I know what needs to be accomplished this week, that for some reason, my body has gotten used to getting up at least within the same like hour range. It's definitely not like the same time every day, but at least within an hour range.
Sure. You're like your biological clock, I guess, just sort of has aligned itself with.
I'd like to think so.
You'd like to think so? Let's hope so. Yeah, for sure. Now, are you still currently doing volunteer work at the HIV/AIDS clinic that you have volunteered with?
Yeah, so I haven't been able to go since the beginning of COVID.
Sure.
But I really enjoyed that experience. And I knew that I wanted to stay in LA after my training program and everything. So I always kind of envisioned that being a part of my weekly goals and weekly list of things that I was going to do is like continue to go there just because I enjoyed it so much.
Just make that list longer then, I guess, huh?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I definitely foresee that in hopefully the near future. But yeah, I haven't had a chance to go, but I really feel like I made such an impact there, which is just like the most gratifying thing. Like going in and being able to either field questions from the team or actually setting up a medication therapy management program where patients could come in and like bring their entire bag of meds. And so like normally like in pharmacy school, we're taught to like look at all of the medications, you know, of course. But because of my integrative health background and experience, I can look at all the medications, all the herbs, all the supplements, answer questions about cannabis, talk about sleep hygiene, which I actually talked about a lot there. And then also nutrition too. So like really being able to give like a full, like well-rounded, you know, perspective. And, you know, because it's a nonprofit, I didn't feel like I only had a certain amount of time per patient. So I was really able to sit for sometimes an hour with someone. Wow. And just talk about everything.
Wow. It sounds like a therapy session almost too.
I guess to a point, maybe.
Yeah. Well, not only were you instrumental in establishing, like you said, that the MTM program, is that right? Medical Therapy Management?
That's what it's called for short.
Gotcha. But well, not only did you establish that, but it's also a bilingual MTM program. Is that right?
Yeah, overall, I mean, I studied Spanish in college and I've lived abroad. And so that was like definitely something important that I knew that I wanted to like have more tools in my toolbox rather than just being a healthcare practitioner. And so, yeah, I definitely look at Spanish as one of those tools. So I was able to speak to quite a few patients at the clinic in Spanish and like translate for other practitioners too.
Yeah, I can imagine that has certainly helped facilitate your work and your reach, because a lot of the work that you do is, you know, based in California, where there is a very large Spanish-speaking population.
Yes.
And, you know, unfortunately, in this country, being bilingual is kind of a novel sort of talent, I guess.
I think for now, I foresee that change just simply because of the way the population is changing.
Yeah, certainly. And I certainly hope that too. I've had my certain experiences during quarantine where I felt very low on inspiration and motivation, or even like creativity. But recently, like a couple months ago, I just got a kick where I was like, I'm going to learn like 4 languages.
Wow.
I know. And so like I've been taking like every day I've been rotating on these 4 languages that I've been learning.
Can I ask what they are?
Sure. Yeah. So I have a little bit of experience with French because I did a few French classes in college. And so I picked that back up. And then I was like, you know what? I want to learn, you know, there's that racist cliche when people say you're in America, speak American, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to speak American. So I chose to start practicing Navajo, the Navajo language.
Oh, wow.
Which from what I understand, up until around World War II, there wasn't a recorded version, like a written version of the Navajo language.
Whoa.
To the point where there were people that were part of the Navajo tribe that fought in World War II, and they would use the Navajo language to sort of communicate in a code that no one else could understand.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? I am going to learn Navajo just so that if anyone ever tries to come up to me on the street and tell me to speak American, I'll be able to drop some American on them.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Native American on them. And then I've also picked up Tagalog, which is my parents' language in the Philippines. And then I've also, the most recent one that I've picked up is more of a writing script than anything else, but it's called Baybayin. And it is a native Filipino writing script that was very popular in like the central Luzon region of the Philippines pre-colonialization. And the characters are so like they're so pretty looking, and they remind me a lot of like water. Like they're very just like flowy looking and very round.
I'll have to Google that. I want to see what it looks like.
For sure. And you know what? It's not that hard to learn. It's really not that hard to learn. You know, there are only a few characters, and then like based on the sound you want to make, you either add like a dot at the top or the bottom, or you add a plus at the bottom. So it's pretty simple to learn, actually. And the Google keyboard has a built-in buy-in keyboard that you can type with. So I've been able to practice too. Yeah, I've been able to practice like texting my family back and forth. They have no idea what I'm saying, but it's been nice to be able to practice and actually, you know, put it to use instead of just learning it. So yeah, it's been fun so far.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no doubt. So if anything, hopefully when I finally get to venture out into public, I'll at least be a little more versatile in that aspect. Yeah, it's been nice. So that has been my quarantine project, if you will. I skipped the sourdough craze and I just went right to Duolingo.
Wow, that's great. I mean, I think that's another thing with quarantine is that people have had time to focus on certain things that they weren't able to focus on before, do something on their list that they've been wanting to do for like ever. I know that like a lot of my friends who had always wanted pets, I got pets during quarantine because they're actually able to spend time with them, which is amazing. So not only are you adopting a pet, which I love, you're also like giving it a home and being able to spend so much time with it. I mean, that's amazing.
Totally. Yeah. That pet's going to be so tripped out though when they finally have to go back to work and they're gone for 9 hours a day.
But like, I think so much is changing though. A lot is still going to be remote.
True. Yeah, true. I don't hate that, honestly.
Oh, I think it's great. I love the flexibility.
The flexibility. And I mean, like, I don't know what your personal experience has been, but productivity wise, it doesn't seem to be too much of a hindrance. We're still getting things done on the pace that we would like to, at least on my end. So
I mean, and if things need to get done, things need to get done, whether you're like sitting on your couch, sitting on your dining room table, or in your home office or in your actual office. It doesn't really matter as long as things get done. I think it's just the most important.
I feel you. I'm with you on that one. Now, going back to your experience again, in addition to doing everything that you're doing and everything that you have done, I understand that you're also a professionally trained Indian classical dancer. Is that right?
I am.
Now, was that something that you seeked out yourself, or does your family have a history in that?
So it's something that like when you're growing up, like in the Indian community within the US, it's something that quite a few parents put their kids in, so to speak, kind of like starting ballet and tap, like the equivalent of that. Yeah. So I was initially put into it like that, but I really grew to love it. And so I haven't had a chance to do it as much as I would like, especially since college. But it's something that I've been wanting to get back into. And I actually, if someone knows information about this, please send me by email. But I haven't really been able to find a lot of teachers out in like the LA area, in the LA metro area. Yes. But like actually in the city, I haven't really found that many people. So if anyone knows of anyone, I would love to collaborate, because that was something like I'd love to teach that on the side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just haven't met anyone who is doing that, or I've been trying to look online. I haven't met anyone. So
interesting. I'm kind of surprised in LA that you haven't been able to find too many.
I think they definitely exist. I just am not looking in the right places. So if anyone knows, please reach out.
Anyone knows, if we happen to be attracting anyone in the specific niche of cannabis and Indian classical dance, please reach out, because that would be awesome. Now, in tying that into what you do, though, you conducted the first pharmacist taught elective course at Emperor's College of Traditional Oriental Medicine in Santa Monica, California, right? So what have you discovered about the intersections of Ayurveda, holistic health, and Indian classical dance?
So fascinating. I love this question. I've never been asked it before. So actually, it was really, really fun to put together that curriculum, because it was like half Ayurveda based. And, Ayurveda, of course, is all about nutrition, but really it's like a lifestyle. And so thinking about it like that, I was able to do like Ayurvedic health and movement and really like draw on that movement piece and what that really means. And so I actually taught Indian classical dance to the students in my class. So we did like maybe like 50-50, 60-40 of like theory to actual dance. And then also like we did some cooking and we had some like potlucks and talked about all the different spices in there, the research behind the spices. I got them to read primary literature articles, which of course I always love. So yeah, there was a bit of cooking, bit of, primary literature, a bit of dance. So I really just tried to infuse everything I thought like would help people learn and like retain information about Ayurveda, because it was very interesting to talk to a lot of the students in the class, because I always had this slide in the beginning of the lectures saying, if anything reminds you of TCM or traditional Chinese medicine, or if anything like you see an overlap, like I'd love to hear it, because I'm still learning so much about traditional Chinese medicine. And there really was so much overlap in like ways of cooking things, ways of, the way that they're thought of and the way that they function in the body, like all of those things. It was very fascinating.
Interesting. And when was that class?
That was a semester-long class starting in January.
January of this year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's so awesome to hear. I would have, I don't think I would have ever made those connections myself. So that's really awesome that you were able to establish that and bring that sort of education to people who are looking for it. Did you find that people who took the course were looking for that specifically, or did you find that they sort of saw it and then it just sort of piqued their interest just then and there?
I actually asked the students about this, and quite a few of them had either looked into Ayurveda a little bit themselves, or they were like genuinely interested. They just didn't have like an opportunity to learn about it in their curriculum. So quite a few of them, it was that.
Got it. That is so cool. That is really, really awesome to hear. Your experience, like I said, I've mentioned it many times, is so diverse and so eclectic, and you have such a wide array of experience that has brought you to where you are today. And I also, have a weird array of experience that has brought me to where I am today. I am an actor and performer first and foremost. That's what I'm trained in. And then my transition into working in the like cannabis media space sort of just came from my own interest in cannabis when I moved to California, and then just happened to be meeting the right people here and there, and then here I am talking to you on this mic. So your experience includes but is not limited to like you said, being bilingual in Spanish, working as a graphic designer and event coordinator at your college for a year, conducting research projects in pharmacy school, including a phase 2 clinical trial on cannabis use. You worked at a medical device startup. You're now writing for multiple publications. And you've said that your colleagues have never described you as conventional. So as someone who finds that very #relatable, in a professional world, how has your unconventional experience benefited you, or what unique obstacles has it presented you, if any?
I think overall it's been a really big benefit. I think because I've had such an array of experiences, I've had the opportunity to relate to a lot of different people and really like draw a connection with all different types of people, especially when I start talking to them and realize that we have something in common. I also went to college out in the Midwest, and then I did my pharmacy training in the Southeast and then moved out to LA, and I'm originally from the Northeast. So I've also lived all over the place too. So I have an opportunity to chat with people about that too, if they're from a different part of the country. So yeah, it's overall been such a blessing. I can't think of a way that it was necessarily negative. If I have to think of a negative, definitely that people like just don't understand what I do, but I don't take that as a negative. That's just their opinion, and that's fine.
Yeah, totally. Do you feel that out of any sort of industry or space that there is out there, is cannabis more than others open to those who might have an unconventional sort of background or experience compared to other industries?
That's a good question. Yeah, I would say overall, and I think from my perspective too, I think like being a healthcare practitioner in the space, like I feel very much welcomed in the space. Like I feel like this is like almost like a void, and people are looking for someone to fill that void that has like a little bit of the scientific or like medical background. So definitely within the cannabis space, I think, and I think also too, because the cannabis space is like relatively new, or it's recently gotten popular, let's say, or expanded. I think that a lot of people inevitably just come from different backgrounds, which makes it just such an interesting place and like a really amazing opportunity to connect with so many different people, because you never know where they came from before what they're doing now. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that cannabis is, historically has been a facilitator of community and bringing people together from all walks of life, all the way down to it being traded down the Silk Road, you know what I mean? And being passed through different generations and through different communities and cultures. I think that's what I try to focus on the most when it comes to cannabis, is that it's a unifier more than anything.
Right.
So yeah, I'm glad to hear that you are feeling welcomed, because I have too. I feel like less judgmental than other spaces. That's for sure. Maybe that's just me coming from a performance and acting world, though, where it literally all runs on judgment. Well, and I think also like a lot of the other industries that are so defined, if you're not doing things like in that defined path or things that people are familiar with, they just automatically are just so judgmental and really just confused. Yeah. Yeah. They just don't understand. Yeah, that's an interesting point too. And because, cannabis is so wide reaching, you know what I mean? It has so many uses, it has so many benefits and so many ways to consume it, whether recreationally or medically. There is more space to, I feel like, do other things, you know what I mean? And have your hands in multiple projects, because cannabis, can be used and utilized in so many different ways too. So I definitely think that it is a more flexible space to be in, for sure. Yeah. And it also leaves room for expression and following what you're passionate about. I think that part is really important. Yeah. It like fosters or it like encourages that, which I think is really, really important for people's growth, so they don't feel stunted in any way. Yeah, absolutely. Now, it's September now. The beginning of September. What are you looking forward to most for the rest of the year? Really just delving into a lot of the projects that you talked about, like starting Calithos full time, being more involved with Element Apothic, and then just all of the other educational opportunities too. So really just jumping in to everything. Jumping in. I like it. Diving in, huh? Yep. That's awesome. Right on. Well, Dr. Swathi, thank you so much for taking an hour plus out of your day to sit down and have this conversation with me. I really, really appreciate your time. And I really, really appreciate all of the work that you're doing in all of the projects that you're involved in. Definitely keep up the good work. And hopefully I'll be able to see you at the showcase in Orange County coming up soon.
Definitely. I'll send you the info once we had that all finalized. Definitely.
Sounds good. And I'll send you a screenshot of my 23andMe, and hopefully you can help me out with that. Please do. Okay, before we go, where can our listeners find out more about what you're doing and keep up with you online?
Sure. Add me on LinkedIn. I post some things there, but otherwise I just really like to connect with people via LinkedIn. And then apart from that, my website is www.drswathi.com with doctor spelled out. So DOCTORSWATHI.com. And then, that would be the best with it. Between LinkedIn and my website, feel free to send me a message.
Right on. Thank you so much, Dr. Swathi, again, for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been great.
No problem. Anytime. We'll have another check-in again.
Okay. Let's plan for it.
My thanks again to Dr. Swathi Varanasi for joining me. If you are a member of the cannabis community and have a story you want to share with us, we would love to hear from you. You can reach the show at hashitout@TRICHOMES.com. You can help others find the show by taking a moment to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. You can also join the discussion with industry insiders and get your voice heard by joining the community at TRICHOMES.com and following us on all social media. Hash It Out is produced by David Fortin and presented by TRICHOMES.com. I'm RJ Balde. Thanks for listening.